Boa noite, boa noite, boa noite, boa noite. Começando hoje um pouquinho até mais tarde do que eu esperava. Deixa eu ver aqui mais, vamos ligar aqui. Pronto, fica mais tranquilo para a gente falar. Você viu no cabeçalho ali? Hoje está um dia meio triste, está muito triste. Fico olhando, a gente, puxa, como já queria que as coisas mudassem. Mas aí você vê o Marcelo Conrado e fala assim, pois é, o cara quer 10 milhões para liberar o X. E o X meu bem crescendo, agora está estagnado. Fazer parte da vida, tem que voltar para voltar a crescer, tem que voltar a fazer as coisas, tem que voltar tudo e não volta. Não, mas agora ele vai criar o sempre que ele quiser. Pode fazer o que ele quiser de errado. O dele está guardado. O dele está vindo aí e ninguém vai poder fazer nada por ele. Essa aqui é a bem grande verdade que vem por aí. Tá? Que quando chegar, ninguém vai poder fazer nada por ele. Ninguém. Não é, meu amigo? Desse lado aqui. E aí? Fala aí, o que você acha? Você está aí só olhando para a cara da gente. O que você acha aí, meu amigo? Qual a sua perspectiva? Que coisa. Bom, hoje eu tenho uma coisa que a gente vai botar, aí cara diz que tem direitos autorais, não sei, eu vou botar assim mesmo. Primeira introdução, que já que é um programa chamado Desistir Jamais, para a gente não desistir, que é a live da teimosia, a gente teima aqui, sofrendo, mas está aqui. Vem aí, vem a abertura, que depois a gente fala mais aqui. Bom, eu tenho que voltar um pouquinho, só um pouquinho. Aí, para deixar o código QR. Esse aqui é o famoso link, né, que leva a gente para uma plataforma onde estão todas as nossas redes sociais. Eu tenho que ir lá arrumar coisa, já tem outras plataformas do Cícero aqui, eu tenho que ajustar lá. A gente está numa fase de ajuste, depois a gente vai começar a fazer os programas para valer. Eu acho que vai dar para a gente abraçar todo mundo como a gente abraçava antigamente, a gente está presente em todos os lugares. Só que a live agora já não é mais ao vivo, a live agora é meio ao vivo. A gente está fazendo live de madrugada, porque a perseguição está grande. Nós estamos proibidos de fazer live dentro do Facebook, praticamente. Tá? Facebook hoje só entra o meu, só entra o outro, mas a gente insiste aí. Você está vendo a gente aí? Porque a gente é muito chato, já falei isso para você. Se sou eu, me pego de pau. Se eu sou contra mim, tem que derrubar o Carlos Sena. Porque ele voltou, ele está sendo muito chato. Vou dar um pau nele para ele não voltar mais. Aconteceu qualquer hora comigo. Alguém lembra o que aconteceu com a Doni Soares nessa história toda? Muito tempo que eu não vejo, eu estou preocupado. Né? Cadê o cara? O cara sumiu, o cara desapareceu. E amanhã tem protesto lá em Belo Horizonte, eu não vou, porque não tem dinheiro. Está difícil aqui, mas tudo bem, a gente vai seguir em frente até ver o que acontece. Tá? Bem, vamos em frente aqui. Deixa eu tirar o vídeo aqui. Pronto, estamos só nós. Ei, que bom. Eu e o meu amigo aqui. Meu amigo, e aí? O que você está achando da política aí brasileira? Tá bem enrolado, né? Está bem enrolado, muito bem enrolado. Vamos lá. Começando logo de cara. Marcel Van Hatten, isso aí é vídeo de novo, que é fresquinho de hoje. Fala aí, Marcel.
De Moraes comete abusos. Mais uma vez, ele faz aquilo que está fora da lei. E você sabe o que significa quando uma pessoa age fora da lei. Eu perguntei ontem no Twitter e repito aqui, será que isso não se chama extorsão? Está agora exigindo 10 milhões de reais do Twitter, do X, do Elon Musk, para que o X possa voltar a operar. De onde ele tira esses valores de multas? Mas que coisa mais absurda. Além disso, 300 mil reais de multa para representante legal do X no Brasil. É isso que dá negociar com esse tipo de gente. Elon Musk tentou, mas olha o absurdo agora que nós estamos vendo acontecer mais uma vez no Brasil. E é sempre numa sexta-feira, na hora, né, do happy hour brasileiro, quando as pessoas estão prestando menos atenção, que Alexandre de Moraes age dessa forma. Por isso o impeachment de Alexandre de Moraes é urgente e é por isso que estarei nas ruas amanhã, domingo, dia 29 de setembro, em Belo Horizonte, para pressionar Rodrigo Pacheco, lá em Minas Gerais, para a abertura do processo de impeachment. Todos na rua, e faço uma convocação especial para todos os filiados do Partido Novo de Minas Gerais, onde o Novo é muito forte. Na rua amanhã, estarei a partir das 9 horas da manhã, na Praça da Liberdade, em Belo Horizonte, Minas Gerais.
É isso aí, obrigado, Marcelo Barrata, obrigado. Recado dado. E aí, você vai? Eu, infelizmente, estou sem dinheiro, não quis nem pedir, porque tem muita coisa para pagar. Muita conta para pagar mesmo. Mas tudo bem, vamos em frente, já falei, vamos em frente, continuamos, seguimos. Estranho isso que está acontecendo aqui em casa, mas a gente vai chegar lá e vai fazer. Bom, passado isso aí, eu vou ter que ir direto uma propaganda minha, porque eu tenho depois um grande programa para mostrar para vocês. Uma entrevista que o Eduardo Bolsonaro deu a um repórter lá fora, e a gente vai botar ela aqui para repercutir. Ele está dentro do X, assim que o X voltar, por favor, siga esse cara, esse repórter, jornalista, muito bom ele. Vocês vão gostar, vocês vão ver. Mas antes, porém, contudo, todavia, propaganda minha. Esse é o nosso trabalho. Esse é o nosso jeito de mostrar para você o que está acontecendo no legislativo do país, no Congresso, no Senado, certo? E até no judiciário, o que está acontecendo também no executivo, porque a notícia está aqui. Sem mimimi, sem mamamá, sem nhenhenhé. A notícia é pura e simples, mostrando de ponta a ponta, sem edição. Nós somos streamers. Nós somos streamers jornalistas. Nós não somos influência, não estamos aqui para influenciar, não estamos aqui para te dar uma notícia para você, cheio de narrativas para você tomar partido diário de ver. Você decide, você escolhe, entenderam? Essa é a nossa ideia. Somos, sim, de direita, somos conservadores, somos liberais econômicos, estamos mostrando o melhor da direita dos conservadores, dos liberais econômicos. E você se defina. Só isso que a gente quer, mais nada. Você define o que você quer da vida. Entendeu? Esse é o nosso trabalho. Ajuda a gente. Por quê? Porque nós estamos desmonetizados, somos penalizados por isso. Nós estamos sem propaganda. Desde 2018, as agências foram proibidas de fazer propaganda com a gente. Agora está voltando, tem um aqui, tem outro ali, mas não volta. Voltar, a agência não volta mesmo. Entendeu? Então, lembre-se, ajuda a gente, nós precisamos. Quer ajudar a gente com o Pix? Está aqui em cima, tem o Pix. É e-mail e do lado tem um código QR. Puxa, ajuda a gente com o Pix. Nós não temos superchat, nós fazemos transmissões por várias plataformas ao mesmo tempo. Tá bom? Então você vai lá e manda um Pix para a gente. Poxa, pode mandar um Pix de R$1. Obrigado, você é um grande amigo. Além disso, você pode... Tem 10 no cartão de crédito, mas não tem dinheiro. Vai lá no Odyssey e você lá tem um apoio onde você pode passar cartão de crédito, pode passar cartão de débito e pode até pagar com boleto bancário, se você quiser. É meio absurdo, mas você pode fazer isso. Lá só não tem Pix. Por que não tem Pix lá? Porque nos Estados Unidos não tem Pix. Eles são americanos. Pix está aqui com a gente. Você faz o Pix com a gente, faz cartão lá. Ajuda a gente, nós precisamos, certo? Você não tem ideia como o seu Pix vai ajudar a gente a fazer matérias especiais e como essas matérias especiais vão ajudar para dar uma nova ideia do que está acontecendo. Você não tem ideia da nossa capacidade criativa. Puxa, a gente pode fazer tanta coisa. Se tivesse verbo, a gente faz o que a gente pode. Então, só você pode fazer com que a gente fique cada vez mais criativo, fique cada vez melhor, que a gente vá cada vez mais fundo na matéria. Ajuda a gente, que nós estamos precisando. Tá? Pix aqui em cima, aqui do lado, você manda o Pix de quanto você quiser. Obrigado. Muito obrigado mesmo. Se você não tiver mandar por Pix, você pode mandar por cartão de crédito, cartão de débito, lá no Hoje tem um apoia-se. Você vai clicar no apoia-se e manda por lá. Muito obrigado, gente. Só posso agradecer a vocês. A gente vive para vocês e vocês vão ajudando a gente. Obrigadaço. É isso aí, tá vendo? A gente fez gravado, porque senão vai ficar repetindo toda hora, tem que ficar repetindo mesmo toda hora, mas o gravado é melhor que vai direto. E aí eu vou direto para a entrevista. Eduardo Bolsonaro, ela é longa, está em inglês, tem legenda embaixo, leia, acompanhe. Isso você vai ver amanhã durante o dia, não vai ver, é claro, agora de noite, mas vai ser muito importante você entender o contexto do mundo agora. Há coisas de bastidores que eles falam ali. Desculpa, você só vai saber se ouvir, ver e entender. Há muito bastidor da política ali nessas entrevistas. Então, se puder ver hoje, não, agora eu vou dormir, eu vou fazer isso. Vê amanhã, passa o dia vendo, porque é uma entrevista imperdível. Eduardo Bolsonaro falando para o repórter do X. Vamos nós.
Pakistan being banned in Brazil, a democracy, Elon being targeted in the US, even citizens are being jailed for what they say online. Therefore, I've made the decision to travel the world, interview presidents, prime ministers, business leaders, exclusively on X, where I won't be censored and you get to know the truth. Why was X banned in Brazil? Why is there an investigation into myself, a federal investigation into myself, Elon and other Brazilian journalists? Why are Brazilian journalists getting arrested and fleeing the country? Why is the former president not able to run for office or even leave the country? Why was he censored when he came on my show a few months ago? And how is one person able to threaten the democracy of the fourth largest democracy in the world? Today I just spoke with Congressman Eduardo Bolsonaro, son of the former president, and he gives me the truth on exactly what the hell is happening in Brazil.
Last time when I had your father on the show, he wasn't in hospital, but he had like an oxygen. He was not feeling well.
When was that?
When he did the space, remember when they blocked he was worried about his account getting banned. He had to use
To be
Starlink.
very honest, using Starlink, he mentioned that. But we had some problems to go online. Lawyers were advising him about, take care, use the other account, blah, blah, blah. Because you don't need a reason to go to jail, but you're not going to give free ammunition to your enemy. That's the point. But it was very tricky to him. I remember that my brother Carlos didn't like the idea.
When I had Prime Minister Imran Khan on the show weeks before he got arrested as well. Your father's not allowed to leave the country, correct? Or he is now?
No, he's not allowed.
Crazy.
But you have a very tricky situation because, the communication with the Supreme Court, everything go behind the scenes through lawyers. And there is a very tricky situation to Alexandre de Moraes because if Trump will win the election, he's going to invite my father for the inauguration. This will be a very sensitive moment to Alexandre de Moraes.
That's incredible. That's smart. I didn't know that.
So some people were advising Alexandre de Moraes, make an excuse and give back the passport to Bolsonaro.
Because otherwise it'll look really bad.
Yes. Because it would be look like banging to Trump. Banging now, what is the term in English?
It would like
it's a humiliation for him, maybe.
Humiliation for Moraes.
Yes, if it happens. But for sure, they are cheering a lot for Kamala.
That, yeah, of course, Lula and President Lula. Yeah, we're going to start now.
All right.
Well, we kind of started already.
Deixa eu começar aqui.
So Congressman, it's a pleasure to have you. We already started the discussion. We started it even downstairs. You started with your thoughts. Not sure if I can say it on air. If not, we can bleep it out. But you think X will be unbanned?
I think so. Actually, we have to say that today is September 14th. I guess after Alexandre de Moraes take, or as we say in Brazil, steal Starlink's money, because Starlink has nothing to do with X, as everybody knows. Even Elon is not the major investor. He has, 42% of Starlink. But after that, we do believe that as Alexandre de Moraes has money enough to pay the fines that he fined X, he will give back the permission to X to work in Brazil. Because in fact, he's receiving a lot of pressure, a lot of very powerful people around the world, billionaires, very well connected people. So this is not a fight. It's coming way more than just a fight between two individuals, Alexandre de Moraes against Elon Musk. We even think that it can have a repercussion in a governmental level, because basically it's the government of Brazil supporting the kick out of an American company from Brazil, and with no excuse, with no justification, because Elon basically is following all of the Brazilian law. What is happening that he's not following illegal decisions coming from the Justice of the Supreme Court, as you know, Alexandre de Moraes. So this is the point. And the other issue that's coming up sooner or later is that if X is showing all of that is happening in the social media with X, what about the other social media platforms? Because it's hard to believe that Alexandre de Moraes is giving orders to X to block people and hide from them that the order is originally coming from the Supreme Court, but he's giving order to block people not following the due process of law of the Brazilian Constitution. And Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all the other social medias, they are not suffering with the same kind of behavior from Alexandre de Moraes. So these are some of the very few points, only to introduce our conversation, that we have to take care in Brazil. And I think the U.S. Congress is going to do that through the Human Rights Committee with Representative Chris Smith, which is the oldest member of the U.S. Congress. He's a federal representative since 1983. Or through Jim Jordan Justice Committee, that is also doing a deep investigation under what is going on in Brazil.
One thing Bill Ackman said, and we're going to go back for the audience because a lot of people don't know what's happening in Brazil. They don't know Brazil was 200 million people?
Yeah, now almost 220 million.
220 million, the fourth biggest democracy in the world, and not far from the U.S. border. So a lot of what's happening in Brazil is kind of a precursor to what could happen in the U.S. and the rest of the Western world and other democracies. So it's pretty important we go through the background. But before doing that, we're talking about the impact of X and the ban on X on other social media companies and Brazil's perception in general. So Bill Ackman said, I think it was Bill Ackman, that Brazil is becoming uninvestable. Did you see that?
Yeah. He was talking about that, supporting Elon Musk conflict with Alexandre. Basically, it's not the Elon Musk conflict. It's a war for freedom. All right. The difference between Elon Musk and all the others that got censored by Alexandre de Moraes is because Elon he has more tools to do that. Even in my speech in the last rally in Brazil, in São Paulo, in September 7th, in our Independence Day, I talked things about that we have the same soul, because people, when they go to the streets in Brazil, you have to take a look. Before they go to the streets for the rally, usually left-wing politicians, they go to the Congress, and on their speeches, they say, be careful, are you going to the streets together with Bolsonaro? You can end in jail for 17 years, just like people that went there on January 8th.
Who says this?
There are several federal representatives saying that. I can easily remember here Lindbergh Farias and some others.
So you got a politician that says on TV before the protest, like, hey, be careful going on the streets because you can end up in jail?
Yes, because they say it can turn into a riot. and they say it wasn't a riot. They say it was a coup d'etat trying. They tried to do a coup d'etat. But to do a coup d'etat, sometimes I imagine talking with a Russian about that. A Russian asking me as a Brazilian, how was the coup d'etat in Brazil? How many soldiers did you have? 0. How many shoots did you shoot at against the loyal forces of the government? 0 shoots. Okay, so how many guns did the government seized during these riots? 0. Who was going to be the dictator in case this coup d'etat was successful? No one knows. They blame my father. My father was in the United States. And when it came
Miami,
up,
I think.
Yeah, he was in Orlando, actually, in Florida. But when it came up, my father tweeted that he wasn't supporting that. And it was in the middle, on the development of the riots.
So it was during the riots or after?
During the riots. During the riots. Same day. I'm like, come on. So the narrative that they try to tell us is that my father waited to step out from power when he was not president anymore, when he was not the supreme boss of the militaries, to then try to do a coup d'etat with unarmed persons. Come on.
So that's we're talking about the January 8th protest riots where people were on the streets. It was similar to January 7th in the US. So people were on the streets January 7th. January 6th. Oh, yeah, Jan 6th, sorry. January 6th in the US. So where people on the streets, they went through, which buildings did they break into?
Is the Three Powers Square, where stay the Supreme Court, the Congress, and our White House.
Okay. And they broke into these buildings. Now, have you or your father condemned what happened on that day?
Yes.
You've condemned it. Okay.
Yes.
And what happened?
We fully do not agree. We are not in favor of that. But you have to see, by the Constitution and the democracy, you are responsible for what you do. There are people that they were not even they were kilometers away from the Three Powers Square where the riot happened. People were camping like 8-9 kilometers away from there, and they went to jail. They were camped in front of the military headquarters. They came into buses because they were following the orders of the militaries and the police. They said, okay, everybody camp here, go to the bus, you are going to be back home. They got into the buses and stopped in a police station, federal police station. And everybody started to receive the same kind of accusation. Do you know what I mean? You don't have, you do not individualize, oh, you did this, and this is the crime number, article number, blah, 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 and your punishment is 1 to 10 years in jail. It's not like that.
This is crazy. So it's actually you have people that were, because you don't have to agree with what happened on January 8th. You could disagree with that. We do not agree, we condemn. Exactly, but it doesn't mean you have to agree with the way it was dealt with by the government. So you have is that you disagree with the way, and I agree with you. I disagree with what happened on that day, but the way it was dealt with by the authorities is starting to look like lawfare. It's starting to look at targeting the opposition. Can you give us some examples of what people face on that day, what they've done? Like you told me some people were kilometers away and they went to jail. For how long did they go in jail just for camping kilometers away?
Usually people stayed, this kind of people, it was arrested about 1,500 people at the same day.
1,500 people arrested.
Everybody went to jail. In the middle of that, during the police station, federal police station procediment, you had people, children. You have videos of children together with adults waiting for the procediment. We say flagrante delito is to do the papers when you go to the police station, arrested. You have people that with autism that went to jail for months. You have homeless that they were there for months. They went to jail because of that. Right. Because when you have this camp in front of the headquarters, what happened is people start to help each other. So some people arrive there with rice, beans, hamburgers, and start to feed the people camped in front of the military headquarters. So with these, start to come also homeless people, poor people, only to feed themselves. If they were there in January 8th, they went to prison. And the most sensitive case is a case of a man called Clariston, nickname Clezão. This guy, he died in jail. He tried at least twice to get out of jail because he had a health problem, I don't want to say something that then they...
He's just checking it now.
Yeah, he's checking information for me.
To check if the information is accurate, yeah?
Yeah, he's checking that the DA asked to release the guy, so he could answer all of the trial at home, not in jail.
And they didn't accept that request?
No. Alexandre de Moraes didn't even look that. It took 3 months. Alexandre de Moraes didn't look.
Moraes was responsible for a lot of these arrests?
He is the only one responsible for all of the arrests. He's the judge of the arresting. Yes? So the DA asked for the guy to answer the trial at his home, not jailed, not arrested, to answer the trial at his home because he had several health problems. This guy died, and Alexandre de Moraes did not analyze the asking of his lawyers for more than 3 months.
Wow.
So they were basically in jail and not accused of anything.
So and what were you, because I know your campaign, your father were also targeted after what happened on January 8th, because that was used as what many call lawfare to target the opposition. Can you tell me more about what you guys went through? Because I discussed it with your father when we had him on the space, former President Bolsonaro. But can you tell me more about that? I know we've seen a lot of leaks, a lot of things have...
They tried to leak us with the January 8th.
Yeah, there's like a leaked message that says, that's from Moraes, who's meant to be a Supreme Court justice, like a judge. Imagine a judge saying, please connect Eduardo Bolsonaro to Fernando Serimedo.
These, thanks God, after the Twitter Files Brazil, that Elon was showing how was the connection between the Supreme Court and the Electoral Court with Twitter. At that time it was an X, it was still Twitter. How was the connection, the mailing between each other? After this scandal that we call Twitter Files Brazil, now just came up a new case of leaking of some of the WhatsApp conversations of the Alexandre de Moraes assistants. So Alexandre de Moraes, he has a team made by some other judges, and there was a guy called Eduardo Tagliaferro who was on the head of the intelligence of the Electoral Court. So this guy, Eduardo Tagliaferro, he was the boss of what they call Central for Intelligence and Fight Against Misinformation. Is an organism that you have under the Electoral Court of Brazil. So
he was appointed by who?
When Alexandre de Moraes arrived there, he was there. Okay. But then Alexandre de Moraes was controlling this guy and giving him some orders.
Okay.
So him and the other people on his team, on the Alexandre de Moraes team for sure. So what happened is a judge who was the right hand of Alexandre de Moraes, Ayrton Vieira, he was talking with this guy of the intelligence, Eduardo Tagliaferro. It's basically what is the name of they call in the book 1984 is the Minister of the Truth.
Okay.
To tell him, Alexandre de Moraes told us that we have to catch Eduardo Bolsonaro. Find a reason. Let's catch him.
So is this just collusion? Like this is a judge has nothing to do with the investigation, nothing to do with the prosecution. But you've essentially, and we've seen that with X as well. You've got a Supreme Court justice, one of 11, that's single-handedly leading the entire process of telling investigators what to do, link who to who. And in one of the leaks that we saw in Schellenberger's reporting, he says, Eduardo, block and fine him through the STF. Please go all out on the report. Haha. Then send it officially via email.
Yeah, they laugh during the conversations when they're trying to censor shit and block people. It shows that they had pleasure doing that.
But tell me more about this.
Only to go back, Mario. Sorry.
Go ahead, please.
Only to finish with this story. So what they basically did is they did a background check in my whole life for sure. Didn't find nothing. And then one judge came to this guy of the intelligence and said, I don't care. Now I know that Eduardo Bolsonaro, he has a connection with Fernando Serimedo. Fernando Serimedo is an Argentinian journalist, businessman. He works for marketing. He helped the election of Javier Milei. He has an independent blog called La Derecha Diario. And Fernando Serimedo, after the 2022 elections in Brazil, he made some live streaming criticizing the elections in Brazil. All right. Then I have a picture holding the flag of this Argentinian blog that is called La Derecha Diario. Through this picture, they were trying to connect me with Fernando Serimedo and label us as anti-democratic persons, which could justify sending me to jail.
Jesus.
So for a picture, imagine if I take a picture, I don't know, holding Fox News, CNN, NBC, whatever. A picture with a flag of a media, and it can bring you to jail.
Is that still ongoing, that whole attempt? Are they still trying to use that to...
I don't know. We do not have access. I think it's not going forward anymore because it's a shame. Alexandre de Moraes should be outside of any kind of trial or procediment in any kind of court related to right-wing conservatives or Bolsonaro supporters. Because what he's basically doing is he's trying to kill a spontaneous movement led by Jair Bolsonaro. This is the point.
Your father, the former president. But what's the process? I'm actually curious. Like, and we're going to go back to what happened on January 8th with you, your father, the political party, your supporters. Because it just, when I spoke to your father, just like a complete witch hunt, how you were all targeted. Reminds me of, as I said earlier, Prime Minister Imran Khan and how the PIT party was targeted. A lot of them arrested, had to leave the country. First, before asking about Moraes and kind of the process of getting rid of him, I want to ask about you. Have you considered? Are you worried being in Brazil, considering this? Like we're having this interview in Abu Dhabi here because I would not go to Brazil. No matter, there's some countries I was invited by the president of a neighboring country of yours. I'll just say it now. I don't know. Maybe we'll bleep it out. But Venezuela, I was invited to President Maduro to interview him. They offered me immunity, transport, etc. I'd love to interview him. I'd love to get his perspective. I disagree with him, but I like to talk to everybody. I would not go there.
I would advise you, if you have the chance, have an interview with him.
But I can't go to Venezuela. I would worry after what happened with Pavel in France. I'd be worried I don't get out of Venezuela.
Also the Spanish journalist, Keiki Minuessa.
What happened to him?
No, he went to cover the Venezuelan elections and he was detained for a couple of days.
Hey, he's out now, yeah?
Yeah, he's out now, but he had a hard time.
I wouldn't, even a day is too much. I wouldn't. I know that
I spoke to the embassy. Even more at this point because Maduro is kicking out.
He's very aggressive. So what he did with the embassy,
the administration got the Air Force One of Venezuela in Dominican Republic.
That's crazy. He went. So I spoke to the embassy, Australian embassy. Like, Mary, we cannot guarantee your security. The Argentinian embassy. Do you remember what happened there?
Yes.
And I think the was it the Brazilian?
The Brazilian government embassy was trying to help somehow.
Did they manage?
But I think this was on the next day after coming an order from Maduro dictatorship, they stepped back. Nowadays, to be very honest, I don't know how is the relation there, but I think the Brazilian diplomats in the point, not following Lula da Silva orders, they try to help the Argentinian embassy.
Do you know President Maduro well? Have you spoken to him much?
No, I never seen him in my life.
Has President Bolsonaro seen him?
No. I remember when my father got elected in the transition government, someone invited Maduro when my father was taking office. Then we removed this diplomat from the team because it's nonsense. Because Maduro is a dictator. We don't want to be together with him. Yeah. Yes, you need to have fair elections before anything. We do not recognize Maduro as a president.
No, okay.
For he's a narco dictatorship because he's not a dictator. He's involved in Cartel de los Soles and some other criminals activities. And I know that Maduro during the 80s, he was graduated in some sort of college or university in Cuba with the communists. That's why when Hugo Chavez died, Maduro was the one preferred by the Cubans to take the power. And so this is what really happened.
Sad.
And this is the problem. Sometimes people think that Maduro can have wonderful life in Turkey, North Korea, Cuba, whatever. But the thing is, he's a criminal. He has so much business with the generals that he appointed to the armed force that basically are drug dealers using even military airplanes to do the traffic internationally. And some other things. You have ALN, you have FARC, you have the Cubans, you have Wagner's from Russia, you have Chinese interests. So if he says, okay, I'm going to live my life alone with my wonderful wife in Turkey, let me say, their partners are going to kill him. I don't think he has
He's gone too far.
Yeah, people say, oh, you need to let one door open. That okay, I do agree with that. I prefer that he run away and let the country get back again its democracy. But he doesn't have this option. So for me, it was very clear, even during the election, that he was going to steal. Doesn't matter what was necessary to do that. I said, okay, he's going to win with 51%. From this point, we're going to see what Maria Corina Machado and Edmundo Gonzalez, what they're going to try to do. And in my mind, I was thinking that at that time, he would have kind of support from militaries, from police or whatever, to by the force take the power. But it didn't happen. And they are going all around the world. Edmundo Gonzalez, if I'm not wrong, he just arrived in Spain because Maduro sued an order to jail him. And I don't think Venezuela is going to have a easy life, or it will be very tough. But the only way to get back there, a normality, it's through the force. Maduro is not going to deliver the power.
And we're seeing the U.S. government confiscated 2 of his airplanes already.
Yes.
Which is, it's not nothing major, but at least it's symbolic. But what about...
It's what Alexandre Moraes did with Starlink now.
Yeah, which we're going to get to in a second. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on President Milei? He's someone I'd love to interview. I think we're in talks with his administration to get an interview with him. Do you know Milei personally? Have you met him before? Has your father met him?
Sometimes. I met Milei first when he was a congressman.
Okay.
I organized a CPAC in Brazil. So at that point, he wasn't famous as he is nowadays. For me, he's probably the main leader in activity in Western Hemisphere. And he was a congressman. He attended to the event. And then he became a president, which means that CPAC gave to him a lot of lucky. And we have a great relationship. It will be very honorable to me trying to help with this interview. And he's a great man, great freedom fighter. For example, when Alexandre Moraes was threatening ex-employees to go to jail during the Twitter Files Brazil scandal, Javier Milei, through his chancellor, Diana Mondino, offered refugee or asylum to ex-employees that would like to go to Argentina.
That's nice.
You have a couple of hundreds of Brazilians convicted by Alexandre de Moraes in the Supreme Court for January 8th. I mean, a lot of kind of people, even very old people, elderly, convicted for 15, 16, even 17 years in jail, that are now living in Argentina under a refugee or asylum. So Milei is fully doing everything that he can. The Argentina embassy that I mentioned in Caracas in Venezuela, receiving some of Venezuelans oppositors of Maduro. So Milei is doing a great work. I think he's doing his maximum in favor of the freedom, in favor of the free speech. He's criticizing openly Alexandre de Moraes because all of that. So for me, when you take positions in favor of all of that, for me, I do recognize as the greatest leader that we have nowadays in the Western Hemisphere.
Is he in constant communication with your father? Is he helping in any way?
Usually, who does the communication, it's me.
Is he in constant communication with you?
Yes.
At the moment? Okay.
Yes.
That's nice. Going back to can you tell me more about what you guys went through over the last few months, or since January 8th, since the crackdown started? I know that your father was worried about correct me if I'm wrong, but he was worried, or at least some people perceived him being worried about getting arrested. He went to the embassy. I know he said it's a different story, but there was concerns. I spoke to a lot of people that were concerned, even your father and yourself and other family members and supporters were going to be arrested back then. How was it for you guys?
I do not talk in name of my father, for sure, But I can tell you that everybody, even when my father was in U.S., he stayed there for 3 or 4 months.
That's in Miami, correct?
Yeah, in Orlando.
Oh, in Orlando as well.
When he flew back to Brazil, a lot of people told me, Eduardo, don't do that. Alexandre de Moraes is going to arrest your father because you have you don't need to justify the arresting. Alexandre de Moraes arrested 1,500 people at the same day. He freezed bank accounts. He destroyed a media, Terça Livre. He exiled journalists in the United States like Paulo Figueiredo, Rodrigo Constantino, Alan dos Santos. He got a judge, Ludmila Lins Grillo, who is now living in the United States too. So nothing is impossible to Alexandre de Moraes. So why not arrest a former president that he doesn't like? He's a public enemy of him. But as all of dictatorships, they do not get the leader first. They go around. So we have a lot of assistants of my father that went to jail. Coronel Câmara, Coronel Cid, Felipe Martins, Silvinei Vasquez. Wow. You have a bunch of other people, like the head
They're still in jail right now. Some of them.
No. Major part of them, they're outside. Some are still in jail. Some are out. In the case that I would like to bring here, and thank you to the opportunity to talk with your cameras, Mario, is the case of Felipe Martins. Why? Because the case of Felipe Martins is very special in one way. Felipe Martins, trust me, he is the former advisor, foreign affairs advisor of President Bolsonaro. He is the Jared Kushner of Jair Bolsonaro, right? He was accused by Alexandre de Moraes to try to do a coup d'etat with Jair Bolsonaro and run away to United States in the end of December. January 1st, Lula take office. 3 days before, my father flew to United States. Because if you remember the case of Janine Áñez from Bolivia, she was president and she was arrested when she was still president of Bolivia. So my father flew to United States on the December 29th or something like that, if I'm not wrong.
A few days before the inauguration.
Yes, but Felipe Martins stayed in Brazil. On the following day, on December 30th, he got a flight from Brasilia, which is the capital of Brazil, to the south of Brazil, where his wife lives, to spend his New Year. He got some Uber compravents, restaurants that he paid with credit cards, a lot of documents showing that he did not go to United States. Even so, months later, like this year, beginning of this year, he was arrested. He was arrested in Brazil for supposedly run away to United States. It's unbelievable. You arrest someone in your country because he supposedly left the country. Yes, it's hard to understand.
It is. How do you supposedly leave a country? Like so first, is it illegal for him to leave the country?
No. It's hard. You need to interview Alexandre de Moraes. Sometimes it's hard to understand his mind. But they got a website of an immigration authority in the United States where you had Felipe Martins was supposedly to be together with President Bolsonaro in that flight in the end of 2022. But this website says clearly on the top, you cannot use this for legal purpose. For a legal purpose, please contact us through the established channels. But the user that, a non-trustable source to justify that Felipe Martins went to the United States.
But why can't he go to the US? I don't understand. He was legally not allowed to travel? Okay, well, Alexandre de Moraes.
What makes this case special is not the bizarre justification for his prison. The point is, he didn't go to US. His lawyer, when he went to the jail, he got a lawyer in US. And the lawyer in US asked the Orlando airport, can you give me the records of Felipe Martins, the immigration movement of him in Orlando airport when he arrived together with President Bolsonaro in the end of 2022? And Orlando airport said, okay, Felipe Martins, there is nothing here with us in Orlando. Please check in the New York airport, right? His lawyer went to the New York airport. Can you give me the records of Felipe Martins? And New York, yeah. He came here last time in September of 2022. And this is okay. because he was together with President Bolsonaro in the opening of the General Assembly of the United Nations. Okay. Days or weeks later, New York Airport came back to the lawyer and said, please check again with Orlando Airport. Something new came up. And they checked with Orlando Airport. Then appeared a movement of Felipe Martins entering in United States, but using a non-valid passport that he lost few years previously. Some weeks later, other thing happened. The head of the federal police task that's controlled by Alexandre de Moraes went to the United States. His name is Fábio Shore. When this federal police officer, Fábio Shore, was in the United States, they edited the passport of Felipe Martins and included in the official movement then the normal passport of Felipe Martins.
How long is he arrested for? How long is he in jail for?
6 months. No, he just released it. He was released
he was released
1 month ago.
Oh, well, I'm glad.
So the case is, I guess, with only one bureaucrat, you can insert or clean a terrorist getting inside of the United States.
So essentially, de Moraes has been doing what he's doing now with X for a long time, and the world is paying attention to it now because Elon's standing up to him. But that's been happening for a long time, where one person
long time. Even when my father he was president. When my father stepped out of the presidency, it made Alexandre de Moraes more comfortable. So he really started with the arresting and blocking.
But your father couldn't, as a president. What's the process to remove someone like Alexandre de Moraes from the Supreme Court?
It's only through the Senate.
The Senate did not vote to remove him back then.
No, because the speaker he has a lot of interest inside of the Supreme Court. But usually he takes the same narrative of Alexandre de Moraes. He says that, oh no, that's necessary for keep the democracy. No. This is necessary to. It's just crazy. They live in other kind of world. I mean, at least what they say.
Your father cannot leave the country.
No, Alexandre de Moraes took his passport.
And he can't run for office either, can he?
No, because he met some ambassadors, and so the electoral court decided that he cannot run for the next 8 years.
8?
8 years. The first case he has some cases. The first case it was because he met some ambassadors and criticized the electoral process of Brazil. It happened after the president of the electoral court met the same ambassadors weeks before, telling them that the electoral process of Brazil, it was fine and it was everything okay with the machines that we use to vote, because the elections in Brazil is fully electronic. No records, no audits, no way to recount the votes. So weeks after that, my father made the same meetings with the ambassadors. Why? Because the president of the electoral court asked the ambassadors to recognize the results of the Brazilian elections right after it's come up. So our election, which happens on the first Sunday of October, when the electoral court says the result, the ambassadors must tell their leaders to call the winner or whatever to recognize the election. So you do not give the opportunity to someone to contest the election. It's like, Maduro was elected 51%. Let's call President Nicolás Maduro. Congratulations for a big win. By the way, Lula also won with 51% of the votes. What a coincidence. Peru, Colombia, Chile is pretty much like the same thing. 51, 50.9, 52 maximum.
Okay. But then, so if your father cannot run for president again, and as we know, he's got massive support in Brazil, half the population
but we
plus
are
or
trying
minus.
to overturn that, because in the electoral court, you have 7 justices, 3 coming from the Supreme Court. And these 7 justices will be fully new judges on 2026.
Oh, wow. Okay. And the election is when?
2026. No, they are changing time after time. And for example, the 3 from the Supreme Court, on the head, you have Alexandre de Moraes.
He's in the.
Not anymore. But on the head, on 2026 of the electoral court, we will have the Justice of the Supreme Court, Cássio Nunes, which was appointed my father.
Okay.
The vice chairman, you'll be also the other justice of the Supreme Court appointed from my father.
Nice. Okay, so now you think you'll win objectively?
I guess we have a chance of a fair trial, at least.
Okay. And that will be before the elections. We'll have enough time.
We have enough time. We have enough time for do that.
Elections what month in 2026? End of
October.
year? October. And if your father...
Then is other issue.
You know what the question is. Would you run for president?
It depends a lot of so much things that we have to wait. What I would usually say is I don't care who my father supports, I will vote. It can be a monkey, a door, anyone. If my father supports, I'm going to vote for this.
How is your father anyway? He's going through a lot of stress right now. I asked you that downstairs. He's going through a lot of pressure. How's he coping with everything? Because I know the reason I ask is I know he went to concerns. He went to hospital during the protest just for a checkup because of his voice.
Yeah.
And then when I interviewed him as well during the space a few months ago, he had an oxygen.
Yeah, he went to the hospital after the stabbing. His life changed pretty much.
What year was he stabbed?
He was stabbed during the 2018 election. A former member of the Socialist and Liberty Party, PSOL, which has a great connection with senators in the United States like Bernie Sanders or the representative AOC. This is the kind of people that are connected with this party in Brazil. He stabbed my father, so the knife entered about 15 centimeters in his belly, and he twisted the knife. He went to the hospital. Basically, it was a miracle that he survived. The doctor said, like 2 or 3 minutes more delayed on the way to the hospital, he would be out of blood on the heart because he lost about 2 to 2.5 liters of blood. Wow. He died twice before getting into the surgery. Wow. And he said, if the knife get like 1 millimeter to one of the sides, it would hit other vein, cava vein, which is a very, very large vein. And if it would happen, it would be the end. No way you arrive in the hospital with.
Reminds you of another story of you're the fourth biggest democracy, first biggest democracy just a few months ago. If President Trump does not turn his head, he'd be dead as well. It's crazy that in today's age we have presidents of democracies going almost dying.
And they try to
cover it up. So as I said, I was going to interview President Trump yesterday. I told you there's issues. We couldn't make it happen. And one of the first questions I wanted to ask him was like, President, you were almost killed, yet no one's talking about it anymore. It wasn't even mentioned in a debate. The president of the world's biggest democracy was almost killed. There's a lot of questions that are unanswered, and yet no one's talking about it. Is it the same in Brazil? What do we know? Has there been a proper investigation into that attempt?
I'll tell you only one thing of the bizarre things that happened is, it was up to the federal police, the investigation. Who was on the head of this investigation about who stabbed my father and all of that, now is the head of the intelligence of the federal police. He's on the board. He was promoted by Lula da Silva.
After the investigation?
Yes.
So essentially connecting the dots, what could have happened is that he did not investigate properly or put out a certain report that Lula's happy with, President Lula's happy with, and then Lula promised him a promotion.
I don't know. I can accuse that, but what Lula does is on the head of Lula da Silva administration, as ministries or first-level secretaries, they are all political. Ministry of Transportation is a politician. Minister of Economy is a politician. So it's very hard to think that he's not going to appoint someone connected with him to have all of the information of the whole country.
Incentives are just not aligned. That's the problem. President Lula might have great policies. I might agree with a lot of the things that he does or says, but I disagree. I'm not saying I do. I think it could be possible. I agree and disagree. I agree and disagree with your father, President Bolsonaro. But the thing that concerns me the most is when the systems of a democracy are threatened or not being followed. And what we're seeing in Brazil, that happened time and time again. And we saw that after what happened with January 8th. You pointed out that even the investigation, there's questions now that one could pose. And we're seeing that with what's happening right now with X being banned. Tell me more about the ban on...
Because this is not up to the right or the left or Lula or Bolsonaro. It's just like you said.
It's democracy. It's a system that the world should operate by.
We can disagree with several things, social area, militaries, whatever, taxes. But this is basically, I do not want to censor Lula. I want Lula speaking more and more if possible, till we know more who he is, his intelligence, his QI, whatever. And
How
But
well
they-
do you know President Lula? Have you met him much in person?
No, not really. I met him. No, I think I've never met him.
And your father, I'm guessing.
I never-
met him.
I don't know. My father may be in the past because my father he was a federal representative, congressman for a long time, and usually the president goes to the Congress every at least.
But
the
no
first-
meetings in recent.
No meetings. No.
Even calls?
No.
No, at least nothing we know or you can share.
No.
Like
They want basically to kill us. This is the problem.
do you
tried-
get worried? I know you've never. There's no public information about you facing an assassination attempt.
Uh-huh.
Hopefully not. That won't happen at all.
Uh-huh.
But is that something that worries you?
We take care because we know that they are not only they are politicians that walk together with the guerrillas of Colombia, the FARC. They were together in the Foro de São Paulo group. They have a lot of investigations and procediments to say that they're connected with criminals organizations as PCC, Primeiro Comando da Capital, which is the largest criminals organized crime of Brazil. You have Marcos Valério testimony saying about this connection, that even the Labour Party of Lula da Silva used laundered money from the PCC. When the Minister of the Justice of Lula, months ago, he went to one of the dangerous areas of Rio de Janeiro, he entered there with no need of the police go first to clean the area. So it means that he can go into the middle of the territories of the criminals, no shooting situation. So it would be very innocent from my part to think that they do not have a connection. When Lula, when he won the election, in the first and the second round, when he crossed during the counting, when he crossed Bolsonaro and became number one, it was a celebration in the prisons. So I have to take care of my life.
Is the gentleman with you? Is it security or?
No. He's just an assistant.
Okay.
But he knows how to shoot.
I'm glad you do. Well, here in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, like this
No.
This
He's
is one of
very
the
safe.
few countries, and where I am now in United Arab Emirates, one of the few countries I don't worry about security. I don't have
Me too.
security. It's
Me
one
too.
of the safe countries where people from the east and the west could come safely. There's not many countries you could say that to.
Yes.
Like even the US starting to concern me now with what we're seeing.
Yeah.
I still would go there. I think I'm going there next month. I go there a lot, but it's heading down a concerning path. Talking about a concerning path, tell me more about the whole story with X. Obviously, I've covered it very extensively. I've kind of been dragged into it in that investigation, the report. I don't know if you saw the report where they launched an investigation into Elon. They've dragged me. Yeah, they've dragged me into it. Me and others.
The report of the federal police? Yeah.
You saw that one, yeah?
I was in your space at that time.
Yeah, exactly. So that space. So
I
we
was in
did
the
it-
European Parliament. We did in a space, and then when I flew back to Brazil, a couple of days after that, there was a report of the federal police. Usually they do that to prepare the field for an operation of the federal police. I mean, the federal police that's under Alexandre de Moraes' control.
So what is that report? Tell me more about that report. So just to be clear, so we did just a space. You were on. Elon didn't come on this one, but there were a few others that came on. Obviously, there's a space on X. It was a show on X, and they put out that report. Elon's mentioned. I'm sure you're mentioned. I'm mentioned.
You
Dos
are
Santos
mentioned for sure.
I am, yeah.
And usually when
Dos
they do
Santos
that, is to justify some of they create a narrative with that. So basically the accusation is that we are spreading fake news and we are spreading some anti-democratic acts. See, it doesn't matter. You are, to be very honest, Mario, I don't know if you are right-wing, if you are left-wing, and I also do not care about that. I care if you let me speak. If you let me speak, I will sit with any kind of journalist. But even like that, only for hosting a space on X, you are now
As a journalist.
probably under, yes. And if the worst thing is, if you hire a lawyer in Brazil, maybe he will not have access of this investigation.
That's crazy.
This is the crazy thing. That's how it's very hard to tell you, oh, come visit in Brazil. Oh, go cover the streets, what is going on in Brazil.
Many people told me not to go.
Yes,
Many people have spoken.
there is a Portuguese journalist, Sérgio Tavares. He arrived in Brazil in end of February, it was this year, end of February, to cover the rally of Jair Bolsonaro. Jair Bolsonaro was calling a rally on the streets of São Paulo. When he arrived in São Paulo, federal police got him and started to ask him about his position about vaccine, democracy, criticizing the Supreme Court of Brazil and some other issues. A European journalist arriving in Brazil with a clean background. And then the federal police stop him and start to question, is it a democracy? It was clear intimidation.
Is that investigation still ongoing? Do you know anything about it?
For sure, yes. For
Great.
sure, yes.
I'm glad to hear.
I think that I'm not suffering with the visit of the federal police trying to seize my passport and all of that because of Glenn Greenwald. Because there's articles showing that Alexandre de Moraes selected me to be investigated. Because if Alexandre de Moraes catch me now, it would be a huge scandal because he chose someone to be investigated and judge the same people.
Those leaks helped a lot.
Sure, yes. Yes.
First, hats off to journalists like Glenn Greenwald that are focusing on things and Michael Schellenberger that were very active in what's happening in Brazil. So the leaks that you're talking about are essentially Alexandre de Moraes was trying to link you to different people. He even says, please prepare reports on these cases and send them to the fake news inquiry. Again, that's a Supreme Court justice. Like, hey, do this to the prosecutors or the investigators. I will order their removal under penalty of a fine. Then let's get rough with them. Let's do a thorough job. And I'll read out the other quotes I said earlier. Eduardo, block and fine him through the STF. Please go all out on the report. Haha. Then send it officially via email. Another one. Please connect Eduardo Bolsonaro, yourself, to Fernando Serimedo. Serimedo. So these are the I'm sure there's more by Glenn Greenwald. These were put out in his reporting. And essentially, did they go viral in Brazil? A lot of people are starting to notice this problem. Because I know X is banned in Brazil. Can you tell me more about how...
Actually, Folha de São Paulo is the newspaper, number one newspaper in Brazil.
That put out these leaks?
Yes.
Well done.
And it's left-wing.
Perfect.
It's like CNN leaking some Kamala Harris or Biden administration
I'm
stuff.
glad that at least the freedom of the press, like at least aspects of democracy is still functioning. And that's why I still call it a democracy. But can you tell me more, how the hell did they manage to ban one of the largest social media platforms in one of the largest countries in the world? How did one person manage to do that?
Because if the Supreme Court justice took some action, you are going to appeal for who? There is no one above them. They are on the top of the judiciary. So there is no way to will appeal. And what in a normal democracy, what would happen is the Senate at least would open an impeachment proceedment against the justice of the Supreme Court. But again, as I told you, that the Speaker of the Senate, he's telling that he's not going to do that. That's why nowadays...
So if the Speaker doesn't open it, the Senate can't vote on the impeachment?
Yes, basically it's like that.
But how did it all start? Like so X is still banned in Brazil as of today, and you said to me earlier you don't think that will last long?
I hope so. I think so.
Okay. If you had to guess, when do you think it will be unbanned? Do you have approximately?
I would say on the following days, maybe tomorrow or next week.
Oh wow, okay, perfect. We know that yesterday they unbanned the...
Maybe I'm wrong.
Hopefully you're right. Hopefully you're right. Look,
Inshallah.
Alexandre de Moraes, I know you and your investigators are probably watching this as you do with the space. One thing I'd ask...
I'm sure the federal police officers, they are looking to us right now, 100% sure.
All right, so for the federal police, I think, with that, the only thing people outside care about is freedom of the press, is that a democracy is functioning. And they're looking at Brazil as an example of what a democracy should look like. Politically, doesn't matter where someone stands on the political spectrum, but I think banning a platform like X, targeting someone like Elon and other journalists, is not a good look from a political perspective, and it's definitely not how a democracy should function. Anyway, got this out of my system. Can you tell the audience a bit more about how did we get to a stage where X, one of the biggest social media platforms, was banned? Where did it all start?
We all knew that wrong things was going on. We didn't know it's how this was happening. And this is why Brazilians are very thankful for Elon, because he had courage enough to bring some light for these conversations between X, at that time Twitter, and the electoral and the Supreme Court. So one day, Elon came up answering a post of Alexandre de Moraes. Yes, our justices of the Supreme Court, they have X accounts and some other accounts in social media, giving opinions about a bunch of things. It's crazy because they would be, restricted to the process that they judge.
Exactly.
And Elon said, why do you demand so much censorship in Brazil? This is how everything started.
Earlier this year.
Yes. And then he started to say that some other things happened, and it got the attention of the U.S. Congress. So the Justice Committee, chaired by Congressman Jim Jordan in the United States, got this case, and they made a report of about 500 pages, where basically you can see how was the emails from the electoral court, from Alexandre de Moraes' team, to Twitter, asking Twitter to block some profiles on Twitter, and with no justification, not following the due process of law of Brazil. What is the due process of law in Brazil? Alexandre de Moraes should inform the platform what is going on, open 48 hours to let the users to defend themselves with a formal accusation, with a justification, and then they have the chance to defend themselves. But what basically happened in Brazil is, I can tell you through the case of the Congressman Nicolas Ferreira. He was running for congressman in October of 2022, just like me.
He's been on the show a few times. Great guy.
Great guy. He got his cell phone, and it was a message from X. You violate something like that. You violated our policies, that's why you are blocked. But then you start to ask, what post did I do to receive this kind of punishment? At that time, people got angry with X. Oh, come on, X is blocking me. Why? It was about 100 profiles. Only conservative people got this kind of punishment. Why we didn't know? Because Alexandre de Moraes, now you know because through the emails that Elon Musk released for Jim Jordan's committee. Mm-hmm. Because Alexandre de Moraes was ordering the blockings and also ordering X to not inform the users that the order originally was coming from him.
That's crazy, yeah. So it's like, hey, ban these people. Don't say I'm asking you to ban. Yeah. You do it. You take responsibility for it. So kind of throwing, not following the legal process to ban these accounts, as you've gone through that process step by step, a very logical process. He's telling Elon and X, say, ban it, and don't say I told you to ban it.
Yes, and ban it in 1 or 2 hours.
Wow.
When the law in Brazil say 48 hours.
That's crazy.
And if X does not do that, it's a huge fine against X. A huge
per day. It's like a daily fine, isn't it?
It was a daily fine of, I can tell you, $20,000
per account.
I think per day per account.
Per account.
But I would be easily can imagine that he would increase the amount of money.
So what happened next? So Elon got these requests.
So and after all of that, now this thing is under U.S. Congress, not only Jim Jordan's committee, but also the Human Rights Subcommittee chaired by Congressman Chris Smith. Chris Smith, he did a hearing in the U.S. Congress with Mr. Pavlovsky, which is the owner of the Rumble. Rumble is not working in Brazil anymore.
Yeah, it was blocked as well. I know Chris really well.
Yes, it was Chris Pavlovsky.
Pavlovsky, correct,
yeah. Michael Schellenberg, which is a journalist who made the articles about the Twitter files in Brazil. Great journalist. Paulo Figueiredo is a Brazilian journalist that is living in Florida nowadays. He cannot come back to Brazil.
He was on my show as well.
And Alexandre de Moraes canceled his Brazilian passport. And there was a guy connected with the left wing. I do not remember his name, but it's a left guy to give all their point of view. After this hearing, Chris Smith sent a letter to Alexandre de Moraes and some other authorities in Brazil to receive from them their point of view in front of all of that. So basically what he did is he got the information with Paulo Figueiredo, Pavlovsky, Schellenberg, and the other guy, and asked if this was true to Alexandre de Moraes. As I know, Alexandre de Moraes did not answer Chris Smith. But this is the point. Chris Smith, he's following a due process of law, offering the opportunity to Alexandre de Moraes to defend himself, giving his point of view of this whole story, before prepare a bill to go into the American Congress. I don't know the terms of this bill, but likely will be a bill very similar that Chris Smith approved in 2013 about Belarus dictatorship. So Chris Smith, he is new as someone, sometimes even the right-wing conservatives, they do not like some of the positions of Chris Smith about gun control and some other issues, despite he's in the Republican Party. But he's a well-known politician to go through right to the left, dialogue a lot with all of the members of the Congress, and he's strong enough to approve a bill like that, because this is not a bill up to the right wing or the left wing. It's a bill in favor of the freedom of speech, to bring some attention of these bizarre things that are going on in Brazil. So I think one of the next step is he's going to present this bill, and maybe he's going to approve a bill that will turn into a law. And I can imagine if Trump get elected, he will feel even more comfortable to do investigations against Alexandre de Moraes. Because again, a president of the United States with leadership, he would never look to the Brazilian case as a fight of Alexandre de Moraes against Elon Musk. It's a Brazilian government kicking out an American company that is following the Brazilian Constitution. This is the point. And you can have a lot of repercussion against the Brazilian businessmen in the United States. And some of the richest Brazilian businessmen, they support Alexandre de Moraes and the Supreme Court Environmental.
Really?
Maybe if you hit their pockets, they're going to stop supporting.
There is that very wealthy businessman. I think they had millions of followers. He owns a big retail chain. He's a supporter of your father.
Luciano Hang.
Yes, he
From
got his account.
Avani store.
He got
department store.
He got his social media accounts banned as well.
Yes, since 2022. Last month, he got back again his social account.
Okay.
But imagine
on which account? On which platform?
I think all of them.
All of them. Okay.
But imagine in the United States, you get this guy, only Luciano Hang. He has more followers than me. I have, I don't know, almost 6 million followers in Instagram. This guy, he has way more. So imagine you shut up all of the voices. You shut down Fox News. You shut down O1. You shut down Tucker Carlson. You shut up. Tucker Carlson show up. And then you have election in the United States. It's not a fair election. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. So Elon refused. So initially he agreed to ban those accounts, and then he changed his mind. Again, correct me if I get anything wrong. Then he changed his mind. He's like, hey, I'm not going to do this. Unbans those accounts and says these accounts did not violate our policies. I need to know what policies they violated. Is that what happened?
Yes. And I fully understand him, because the first impression that you have when you talk about the major democracy of Latin America, you never imagine that a justice from the Supreme Court is going to tell you to violate his own constitution. This is bizarre. This is the first, it's a leading case. The first time in Brazilian history that something like that happened. But after so much actions, unconstitutional, illegal actions of Alexandre de Moraes, then you start to realize, even if you are a foreigner, that, oh, come on, something is going wrong here. And then when Elon realized that, he started to get other position. He released the blocked profiles. All of them, they are very thankful for Elon. But now what Alexandre de Moraes did is he is shutting down X in Brazil. So if you are in Brazil and you want to have access to X, you have to do pretty much as the Venezuelans are doing, is that turn on your VPN. And Alexandre de Moraes said that if you turn on your VPN and use X, we are going to fine you.
8,000.
Yes, a little bit more actually, almost $10,000
a day or total?
A day. And you know, some the mainstream media started to post on X, saying that who was posting, it's not from Brazil. It's that they're team outside of Brazil.
Yeah. And do you know if a lot of Brazilians are still using X despite the ban?
Yes, you have some,
but not many. A lot stopped using it. They're too scared.
Yes, people are scared. Man, the guy sent 1,500 people to jail to fine you, and $10,000 for a regular Brazilian.
It's a lot of money, yeah. Per day.
The minimum, per day. The minimum salary in Brazil, to have an idea, is I can tell you, $300 to $400 is a minimum salary monthly in Brazil.
Per month.
Yes.
$10,000 getting more money per year.
Yes.
They get fined a day.
Yes. Yes.
So Elon decides to stand up to this. So Elon's stance, for anyone that doesn't know, on censorship, he supports free speech, but he also knows as a businessman, he has to abide, and he said this about India, I think it was, or Turkey, he has to abide by the country's laws. So he says, if I disagree with the stance, that's my position, but if I, as a non-citizen of that country and as an owner of a company, all I can do is follow the legal process in my fight for free speech. That's his stance on why he agreed with some requests in countries like India, Turkey. He went through the legal process contesting them, but eventually abided by them. And then in other countries, including Brazil, he stood up to those requests. And his position, which you've kind of made that clear as well, is that the requests by de Moraes were illegal requests for censorship, for banning these accounts. And that's why Elon did not accept. So when Elon did not accept many months ago, he's very vocal about it. And you know Elon. He says what he thinks. He's similar to your father. Whatever he thinks, he says. And
no filter.
Exactly. He's no filter. He went crazy against de Moraes. And as someone as well that supports free speech, I did the same. We did the spaces back then. I think that's the first time we had you. We did the space that kind of led to the federal investigation into me and others. And the reason I can't go to Brazil and interview you
You were blocked in Brazil.
Yeah, my space. So when I interviewed your father,
I think even in other social medias, I don't
know.
I
was blocked. My ex account was blocked in Brazil. When we did the space with your father, the space was blocked. All spaces were blocked in Brazil. Our space was blocked in Brazil. My account was blocked when we did that space that led to the investigation.
Everything in the name of democracy.
In the name of democracy, yeah. My account got blocked. Someone that has nothing to do with Brazilian. I'm a journalist. Again, it is freedom of the press, basic in any democracy. The investigation was launched into me, and then your father's Wi-Fi was blocked. It was working before he had legal concerns with using his account, so he used a friend's account to access. Crazy to think of a former president that has a support of more or less half the country. It could not even join a space with a journalist to talk, to answer questions. It's insane in a democracy.
If we were drug dealers, it would be so
exactly.
easy.
Yeah, there's so many journalists going to Brazil and interviewing gangsters and drug dealers in Brazil. And that's fine. But I interview a former president, I'm not allowed to.
Folha de São Paulo was censored. Alexandre Moraes said they cannot do an interview with Felipe Martins, the former foreign affairs advisor of my father. But if you want to interview a drug dealer, a murderer, rapist,
that's crazy.
It's okay.
I'm going to interview him just to give them the finger. But just going back to it, so Elon was pretty vocal against those positions. And he brought the world's attention. I'm trying to do the same, trying to bring the world's attention.
You see the amount of signs on the streets of Brazil in favor of
Elon's
him, thanking him.
Is beautiful to see.
I was with on a T-shirt with X.
You wrote it. I saw it. Michael Ferreira also wore one.
Free speech.
Yeah. And others. I've seen others. Which other country, which other social media has had their CEO or owner or founder and their logo on T-shirts of protesters fighting for free speech? Never happened before. And then you have that happen in X. It kind of shows the positive side of what Elon and the X team are doing. The negative side is financially, it's very difficult. He's had a massive market, and one of the top 5 markets for X just blocked, hopefully temporarily, which we both, and I'm a similar position as you. I think it will be unblocked very soon for various reasons. So what happened is that
the reason of unblocking is also bizarre. It's because Starlink, he froze the accounts of Starlink, got the money from Starlink, and say that this money is going to pay the fees.
I think what's going to happen is that politically it's not a good decision to ban X. It makes zero sense. People in Brazil are not going to be happy with it. They're not going to be happy with Lula, President Lula. So they have
Lula
to unban.
Supporting everything.
Exactly. So and he's pretty vocal about it. So they have to unban X. They're forced to do so. A lot of pressure from politicians, from wealthy investors. It's hurting Brazil's economy. As Bill Ackman said, Brazil's becoming uninvestable. Militaries use Starlink as well. In Brazil, a lot of poor people use Starlink, people that don't have access to the Wi-Fi, people in remote areas.
90% of the cities in Amazon forest.
Exactly.
Alexandre Moraes is cutting internet of the forest.
Exactly. So Moraes went as far as blocking the internet to all these Brazilians. And then what Elon did, he's someone that should care less about Brazilians than the Brazilian Supreme Court Justice. He made it free so they can still access the internet. And de Moraes blocked the bank accounts of Starlink, now unblocked them. They took $3.3 million, which is not much in the grand scheme of things, to look good. Like, hey, We took money for them. They paid the fines. Now we unblocked their accounts, which were blocked illegally in the first place because Starlink had nothing to do with SpaceX. They're separate companies. Again, one of them is only owned 40% by
Crazy.
Elon. So they did the first step. Now, I think they will ban X. They will unban X. But they have to do something. X has to do something. So Moraes looks good for his ego. For X to be unbanned. That's in my opinion. Now, I'm saying looks good for his ego, or at least in his mind, make it seem like justice was served, like something was done, because unblocking it would be a bit embarrassing for the administration. So that's what I expect to happen. I think it's the right thing to do, and I hope, for Alexandre de Moraes, I hope you make some right decision. I think you could see that you've gone too far. I know Elon's very aggressive. I know he can say some things which many people disagree with. But for the sake of Brazilian democracy, the right thing to do is find a way, find some sort of settlement with X, despite everything that's been said by me and others. Find some sort of settlement because it is better for your people, for Brazilians, and again, for the functioning of a democracy. So I hope you find some sort of settlement and you meet middle ground. But essentially,
This is not going to happen.
I think it will be unbanned. You think that too?
No, unbanned, yes.
But democracy, which is a step in the right direction. Will we go to a democracy? I'm an optimist. We're heading in the wrong direction in Brazil and other countries. I'm an optimist. I hope I'm proven right. But at least in the current form, the current state of things, it's heading in the wrong way. But Brazilians are noticing. Brazilians are no longer sitting silent. We saw that in the recent protests. Congratulations. Which were bigger than the people at the the celebration itself, the Independence Day celebration where President Lula was in his motorcade. Not many people were there. Remember
But this
those
was
videos?
easy. If you put 1,000 people on the streets, it's way more bigger than Lula da Silva military parade.
Yeah,
during
the
Independence
parade
Day.
was barely had anyone there. I remember the videos posting
No
them that
one.
went viral.
But I can tell you that why I think the Alexandre de Moraes he can step back in one or other point, but he'll keep with his behavior. Is because when my father was president in 2022, and what I'm going to tell you here is like the official story of the things. My father went to the streets on September 7th with way more
When he was
people,
president.
way more people when he was president, way more people than we had this year, in September 7th. And on the next day, the former president before my father, Michel Temer, somehow intermediated a conversation or something like that between my father or my father's team and Alexandre de Moraes. This is not me. This is not my opinion. This is the narrative that people say around. So Jair Bolsonaro signed a letter saying that his speech in September 7th was far away. It went so long. He was like saying that, let's get back, democracy, blah, 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 blah. And then the supporters of Bolsonaro got upset with that appointment that people say was made by the former president Michel Temer. Again, this is not what I think. I didn't see nothing of that, but this is what people say. After that, Alexandre de Moraes should end, finish with the fake news inquiry and the digital militia inquiry, anti-democratic inquiry, which are investigations under his control. But he didn't. So, when Bolsonaro was president, people were on the streets. Alexandre de Moraes didn't stop. Why he's going to stop right now, is just like a regular criminal. They only respect what they fear. So Alexandre de Moraes is not going to step back because he met Jesus Christ. Because, now I'm so stressful of this life and I'm going back and be a regular justice of the Supreme Court. He's not going to do that. I do not believe. I believe that we need to increase the pressure against him with Bill Ackman, Elon Musk, maybe, I don't know, Trump, to do the right thing and then see if we increase the price of Alexandre de Moraes, and then maybe the Brazilian establishment will let the senators...
But there's enough international pressure by business people and politicians.
It would help a lot. It would help a lot.
What happens behind...
It is helping a lot.
what's happened? Like, last question I have, like, the last point of concern, point of curiosity that I have, is that we see things in the open. Obviously, we saw some leaks. Tell me more about what's happening behind the scenes. Is in terms of what attempts are there behind the scenes to get de Moraes removed, if it's even possible, or what efforts are they to kind of counter the breakdown of democracy that we're seeing? Like, up to, like, how did these leaks come out, for example? It just shows, in my opinion, just shows some sort of people in the background, in the establishment, that are trying to fight against what de Moraes is doing. Can you tell me more about behind the scenes, what's going on, what's being done to hopefully go back down a democratic path and either remove de Moraes, remove his powers, or change his mind?
I think the best way is bring some pressure and then try to do the impeachment procediment inside of the Senate, because this is what our Constitution says.
And you need the speaker to
Yes. So for sure, it's not only Alexandre de Moraes. You have some other players that can move forward this procediment. And for sure, businessmen, they have a lot of power. They finance a lot of things. They generate jobs. And they can make their voices to the authorities in Brasilia to listen to them. So, for example, if United States start to have the same treatment, they copy Brazil, if they have reciprocity, and imagine giving some sanctions against Brazilian companies in US. I'm not in favor of that. I'm not telling that because I don't have the power. But let's imagine this. If United States start to apply reciprocity with Brazil and start to bring some damage in the Brazilian companies in the United States, for sure, some of the big players of Brazil, they have access to Alexandre de Moraes. They could go to Alexandre de Moraes and say, hey, calm down. Enough. Maybe. And the other way is do like we did during the impeachment procediment of the former president Dilma Rousseff in 2016, or also in 1993 when we had the impeachment of the former president Fernando Collor. Is what is bring people to the streets, bring pressure to the Congress, and make the Speaker of the Senate to start this impeachment procediment. I think this is the thing that we have to do now. And if we are not successful with the impeachment procediment of Alexandre de Moraes, we have to know who are the senators that are in favor or against that.
Do we know how many are in favor and against? We don't know.
We have a score. Public score says that you have 30-something, 33 or 32 senators in favor of the impeachment of Alexandre de Moraes. We need, if I'm not wrong, we have
81 in total.
48 or 50 votes to do the impeachment.
Okay. And do you know how many votes you think you'll get right now?
Right now, we have 33 or 34.
Oh, okay, for the impeachment.
That publicly says that are in favor of impeachment. You have some others that are Lula da Silva based in the Senate that they are against.
And then there's some.
And you have in the middle, the middle you have, I don't know, 20 to 30 votes. I mean, if we do our work and change the mind of some of these that they don't know how to vote, we have a margin to approve.
But you've still got the Speaker to open up the inquiry.
Yes.
Okay, you've got two hurdles there.
But we have elections in 2026 for the Senate. Yeah. We will renew 2/3 of the Senate.
Okay.
So there is a big risk to Alexandre de Moraes. Yeah. Some people say, Alexandre de Moraes, he's going to be in Supreme Court until he completes 75 years old, when is mandatory get retired from the Supreme Court.
Looks in his 50s,
I don't know, 50-something. So he has until, I don't know, 2048, 2040
That's
something.
That's a long term for a Supreme Court justice.
But if you look from the other side, he has every 4 years to elect a good margin of the senators to do not get impeached. It's hard for him to. Yeah. It's tricky.
Congressman, like to kind of wrap it up, it's been fascinating in a negative way to witness as a foreign journalist what's happening in Brazil, a country I adore. It's an incredible country, and again,
just like Australia,
a massive democracy. Yes, exactly.
With better waves.
Exactly, you're a surfer. I'm sure you've surfed in both countries.
Yes.
I've got my own concerns with Australia, but not even close to what's happening in Brazil. I've got my concerns in the UK, not even close to what's happening in Brazil. And obviously, Elon, on a much bigger scale, Schellenberger, Glenn Greenwald, and others are trying to do what anyone fighting for free speech are trying to do what they can. I hope other social media companies join X and Elon in the fight for free speech, trying to do their part. And I hope Brazilians wake up to what's happening. Whether you support Lula, President Lula, or former President Bolsonaro, I think you should support a democracy. And part of a democracy is the ability to speak freely. It's part of the Constitution. Different to the American Constitution, but in the Constitution nonetheless. So that's my stance. I don't care about whatever political position President Lula or your father hold, and whoever's president in the next cycle doesn't matter for me, as long as we have a functioning democracy and people can speak freely and at least use X in the country. I hope X, as me and you expect it to be unbanned in the next few days. I hope that happens.
Inshallah.
Inshallah it does. We're saying inshallah we're in the United Arab Emirates right now. Again, because I can't go to Brazil, Alexandre de Moraes, because you guys decided to launch an investigation because I did a Twitter space. No country's launched a federal investigation into me. Not even Pakistan. I've interviewed Prime Minister Imran Khan, who's been arrested. They let me have a space. They banned X. It's banned in Pakistan as well. They didn't launch an investigation into me because of that. Pakistan, they didn't do that. In Venezuela, didn't do that. And I was very aggressive against Maduro. Yeah, you guys did it in Brazil, a democracy. That's too far. Again, Congressman, I would love to get your final message to Elon, to X in general, in their fight for free speech, and to the rest of the world, and to other journalists, Schellenberger, Mike Benz, Glenn Greenwald, and others.
No, the fight that he's having about free speech is inspiration, not only for Brazil, but for the rest of the world. I'm sure that the people on the streets in Brazil, they have the same soul of Elon when fighting for free speech, because this is not about money. It's about the future generations. It can sound cliche, but it's true that no one wants our kids living in a place where you cannot even talk what you think, that they cannot speak. And this is basic in democracy, as we know, to get a better and better system. This is how, for example, the United States are building this great country since 1776. So every time that we talk about that, we go to the First Amendment of the United States, because very sadly we don't have a case like that in Brazil. And but the fight of Elon is inspiring all the rest of the world. And the main thing is we have to be concerned not in the result. Some people come to me, Eduardo, people is going to the street. What is going to happen next? Alexandre de Moraes is not going to stop only because people is on the street. Maybe. But the thing is, we have to do the right thing. Doesn't matter the results. If we keep doing the right thing, sooner or later, things will change. I usually also say, doesn't matter if the president is right-wing or left-wing. I will raise my children with the same values. I will teach them the same thing that I think is the right thing. So when they when they grow up, they will be good people. And maybe in the future generation, the next generation, it can change and build a better country doing like that. So do not be afraid, scared, or trying to hurry up with the things. Maybe to take 1 year, 10 years, 20 years. It doesn't care. We must have to do the right thing. Just like Elon, we know that he's losing a lot of money with that. If he was looking forward only for his personal life, he would never do that. It would be way more comfortable, get, I don't know, a vacation in Maldives, get his yacht or whatever, or maybe go to Mars. But he's doing that. So for Elon, we are very, very thankful. One day I hope you'll visit Brazil. You can go to the streets and see how people love you in Brazil. Inshallah, one day we will see this day coming. Maybe together with Mario, when he has no more federal investigation against him because he's hosting space on X.
I hope so as well, and hopefully I can go to Brazil without being worried about being arrested and interview Ferreira, your father, President Bolsonaro, and others in the country. And de Moraes, I'd love to interview you and President Lula as well. I'm sure it'll be a great discussion. But Congressman Bolsonaro, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Eu acho que quando o X voltar ao normal, você vai lá e entra na página dele. Importante. Esse cara está fazendo um trabalho fantástico. Você vê que ele está escutando todo mundo. Eu soltei a entrevista toda, eu sabia que ia demorar, ia ser um programa que talvez muita gente achasse chato, mas era preciso que você entenda o que está tudo circulando. Muita notícia de bastidor que rola por aí é desmentida aqui, e muita notícia de bastidor que você deveria saber e ver o que está acontecendo, ela é conhecida aqui, nessa entrevista. Por isso que eu fiz questão de colocar. Eu sei que ela é longa, muita gente já, na metade, já deve ter desistido. Nós já temos um outro problema, nós estamos transmitindo toda a noite para você ver amanhã de manhã. Hoje não. A gente está transmitindo toda a noite para estar lá dentro das redes sociais. Nós estamos sofrendo forte pressão para não entrar mais nas redes sociais. É isso que eu estou querendo explicar para vocês. Há uma forte pressão para a gente vir, porque não nos querem mais. E a gente é muito chato, porque a gente está aqui todo dia. Só para vocês terem uma ideia, há 2 semanas estamos transmitindo direto sem problema. 2 semanas. Ótimo. Antigamente estava falhando toda hora. Agora é 2 semanas. E a gente está de volta. E mais 2 semanas a gente está de volta. E aí a gente agora, semana que vem, vai começar a ampliação. Vai voltar cada vez a estar mais presente em outras redes sociais. Então, escuta esse recado aqui. Esse recado aqui é importante. Bom, em cima da minha cabeça tem um link. E do lado tem um código QR. Tanto faz você entrar pelo link como pelo código QR. Você vai para uma plataforma onde estão todos os nossos canais. Sabe o que acontece quando você entra ou no link ou pelo código QR? Isso aqui. Né? É assim que você vê. É assim que acontece quando você entra nesse link ou nesse código QR. Está aí a página. Ela tem um movimento e aí você pode ver logo de cara aqui, está o nosso X, está por fora, parado agora. Embaixo do X está o Odyssey. E tem o Telegram. E tem o LinkedIn. E tem o YouTube. E tem o Getter, e depois vem um monte de Facebook que a gente transmite. Olha só que coisa, hein? Ainda tem o Twitch, ainda tem o canal do WhatsApp aqui, quando começarem a aceitar, e tem o próprio WhatsApp para você seguir a gente. Tanto faz você entrar pelo link como entrar pelo código QR. Você vai lá e segue a gente. É importante você acompanhar a gente. Nossa jornada é feita para mostrar para você o que é a direita, o que é o conservadorismo, e principalmente nós não somos terroristas, nós não somos fascistas, nós somos simplesmente bolsonaristas. E ser bolsonarista não é crime. Tá? Eu falo abertamente, sou bolsonarista, vai lá, a gente não está pedindo para matar ninguém, a gente não está pedindo para fazer nada. A gente só quer mostrar o nosso trabalho, a gente só quer mostrar a nossa realidade, a gente só quer mostrar o que a gente pensa e a gente só quer construir um Brasil melhor. Então vai lá, tanto faz entrar pelo link quanto entrar pelo código QR, você vai para esse canal e você clica num deles e você vai direto. E outra coisa, onde você está vendo a gente? De onde você estiver vendo a gente, em qualquer lugar, em qualquer uma dessas plataformas, em qualquer plataforma de movimento social que permitiu que a gente publicasse, você simplesmente deixa seu like. O seu like é a coisa mais importante que nós temos. Deixa seu like. Obrigado, você é amigo. Mas aí você resolve ser um amigão. Você, além do like, deixou um comentário. Puxa, como você é amigo da gente, você é um amigão, você deixa um like, um comentário. Caramba, legal. Você não paga nada por isso. Vai lá, você quer ajudar a força da imprensa da direita. Nós somos oficialmente a imprensa da direita. Os conservadores, os liberais econômicos, é com a gente. Então, você quer ajudar mais? Você deixou o seu like? Legal. Você deixou o seu comentário? Puxa, você é um amigão. Mas aí você quer fazer mais ainda. Você deixou o like, deixou o comentário e compartilhou com quem não nos conhece. Puxa, que bom, hein? Que legal você fazendo 3 coisas. Like, comentário e compartilhar. Pede música! Eu não poder tocar por causa de direitos autorais, mas eu posso cantar. Eu pago o mico aqui numa boa, porque você é um amigaço, você é o amigo que deixou o seu like, você é o amigo que compartilhou, você é o amigo que deixou um comentário. Puxa, que legal. Você fez as 3 coisas? Pede música, eu vou cantar para vocês, pago o mico que for preciso. E tem um detalhe que a gente sempre tem que lembrar, ainda não é proibido cantar no Brasil. O dia que eu quero proibir, a partir de amanhã ninguém mais pode cantar. Aí tudo bem, mas cantar não é proibido, não paga direitos autorais. Tá bom? Então vamos lá, não esquece, deixa seu like, deixa seu comentário e compartilha. E muito obrigado. É isso aí, né? Deixa eu ver se estou... Voltei, isso aí. Bom, era esse o programa que eu queria apresentar hoje, um programa para a gente não desistir. Você viu que eu estava meio desanimado quando falei. A entrevista do Eduardo, para mim, é espetacular. Tá? Você vê que ele teve que viajar para Dubai para poder fazer essa entrevista, para não fazer aqui no Brasil, para não dar problema para ninguém. E o besta aqui vai reproduzir. Mas tudo bem. É importante isso. Tá? É importante as pessoas verem, é importante as pessoas ouvirem o que foi discutido ali, é importante as pessoas terem uma ideia do que está acontecendo. Não fazer carnaval achando que o Alexandre já caiu, porque ele não caiu. Eu acho que ele vai demorar, ele ainda vai criar um monte de coisa para não cair, mas no final ele cai, porque, como eu botei até na descrição desse vídeo, como o Padre Paulo Ricardo falou para mim uma vez, no fim, Deus vence. A gente estava foi em 2013, estávamos discutindo uma lei da Dilma que liberava as pessoas de denunciarem o aborto na delegacia. Você vai para o hospital e no hospital mesmo, o hospital tinha que levar essa denúncia. E ela podia pedir pílula do dia seguinte, podia fazer uma opção de coisa. E a gente teve que engolir isso aí, que ele não queria essa lei. Ele já tinha acabado de vencer o fim da linguagem de gênero. Lá ele juntou todo mundo, eu acompanhei isso lá no Congresso. Ele fez lobby, foi no... E aí veio essa, ele perdeu. E aí ele estava revoltado, ele falou, mas no fim. Aí ele parou, pensou, lembrou, no fim Deus vence. Eu tenho a obrigação nossa de lutar, a obrigação nossa de continuar, a obrigação nossa de insistir. E na hora que Deus quiser vencer, ele vence. Acabou, nós ganhamos. Mas não ficar esperando, não, vai ser amanhã, não, nós temos que ir para a luta. Continue ligando para o seu senador. Eu tenho certeza, como eu botei lá, no dia 7 é o dia seguinte, as eleições, quando eles verem o resultado, que eles tomaram uma coça violenta, quando eles descobrirem que nós somos 80% da população, certo? Que a gente vai não só deixar a esquerda de fora, os partidos de esquerda, como vamos deixar o 55% de fora, o PSD. Aí eles vão ter que ir no dia seguinte, lá no dia 7 de outubro. Poxa, ir para a gente dizer assim, vamos assinar contra Alexandre, vamos fazer isso aqui, vamos fazer aquilo outro. É nisso que eu acredito. Espero que aconteça. Puxa vida, foi um programa longo demais, há muito tempo que a gente não fazia um programa tão longo, mas a gente está aqui para mostrar, a gente está aqui para fazer. Obrigado, YouTube. Olha, eu estou vendo excelente audiência no YouTube. Eu olhei agora, ele vai dar um susto. Geralmente está 0. A gente está transmitindo só para 3 plataformas, depois para mais 3, depois para mais 3. Quando chegar de manhã, está em todas elas. É o jeito. É o que está nos permitindo fazer. E a partir de amanhã, vendo todas elas, você pode ver o programa. Ou seja, a gente está fazendo um programa de madrugada, você vê no dia seguinte. Desculpa, não era essa a minha ideia, não era essa a minha tendência, mas essa entrevista do Eduardo Bolsonaro eu não poderia deixar de botar no ar. Tivesse o tempo que tivesse, aí eu teria que colocar aqui. Você está arriscado o cara depois. Não, vai lá na página do Mário, segue ele lá no X, assim que o X voltar. Tá? Vai lá, anota o nome dele direitinho aí, vai na página dele, entra, segue ele. Bacana o trabalho que ele vai fazer, ele está ouvindo todo mundo, por quê? Por liberdade de expressão. Essa grita que o mundo está fazendo em liberdade de expressão vai nos beneficiar. Aí você entende o que está na cabeça do Bolsonaro e o que não está. Tá? Talvez ele não esteja preocupado com o impeachment do Lula, que eu acho que deveria acontecer. Mas se acontecer esse ano, tem nova eleição, e nova eleição ele não pode participar. Mas se acontecer ano que vem, o Alckmin assume de vez. E qualquer movimento de impeachment central esse ano, ele tem 6 meses para se defender, só vai ficar para o ano que vem. E a gente está na dependência de alguém olhar para a gente e dizer assim, pô, tadinho do Brasil, vamos lá, vamos ajudar o Brasil. E fora disso, só ver como está o cenário mundial, que a gente vai ter 2 anos de muito trabalho pela frente. Tá? Não tem jeito, vamos ter que trabalhar bastante e vamos ter que brigar muito para que a gente tenha liberdade de expressão para poder mostrar a verdade para todo mundo. Embora eu acho que o povo brasileiro sabe. Para mim, eu não tenho essa ilusão de dizer assim, o povo não sabe, né? O povo sabe muito. Hoje, 80% da população brasileira é de direita conservadora. Se diz direita conservadora. Mas 80% bolsonaristas, não. Bolsonaristas, nós somos 65%. Nem toda a direita conservadora é bolsonarista. Principalmente esse grupo que não é bolsonarista, é um grupo que veio para cá agora Porque está revoltado com o governo Lula, está revoltado com o Supremo, está revoltado com essas pessoas. Então estão virando pessoas de direita. Entendeu? Ainda tem muita gente que é de direita, mas não quer ser bolsonarista. Por mais que você queira ou não queira, no 7 de setembro eu estava lá na Paulista. Aí tinha um grupo que era ex-intervencionista. Agora eles ainda querem intervenção, não gostam de político. Intervenção de quem? Esses políticos que estão aí no poder? Não dá não, meu filho, não dá não. A intervenção deles é com a China. Estão fechando um acordo com a China, tem muitos deles morando na China. Coisa está meio estranha. Não é aquele político do ano passado, de 50 anos atrás. Não são os mesmos. Não são os mesmos mesmo. Então não tem ilusão. Quem vai ter que fazer isso aí somos nós. Pega o telefone. Aqui, cadê? Celular na mão. Alô? Alô, senador, por favor. Por favor, impeachment já. Precisamos, o povo está querendo. Não posso fazer um punho em casa, está arriscado o Alexandre me prender. Por favor, acaba com isso. Queremos liberdade de expressão. Isso aí. Liga para ele, fala com ele. Principalmente se o paciente abandonar o PSD 55 nessa eleição. Aí eles vão... De novo. Senador, meu voto será eternamente seu. Eu já falei, aquela do namorado apaixonado. Meu voto será eternamente seu. Se você votar pelo impeachment. Importante, né? Muito importante isso. Na namorada, o voto será eternamente seu se você votar pelo impeachment. Isso aí é fantástico, é demais, é bacana, é legal. Tá, gente, eu vou encerrar por aqui. Eu quero agradecer a Deus. Obrigado, Senhor. Uma live tranquila. Apesar de tudo que a gente está sofrendo, a gente está conseguindo. Todos os dias, 2 semanas que a gente não falta mais. Botando de 3 em 3, a gente está chegando lá. Eu ia até negociar com eles a ampliação, não posso negociar porque existe hoje um boicote bem grande do Facebook para mim. Você não entra, você não entra, você não entra. Eu estou entrando, mas minha maneira de entrar... É claro que mais de um dia talvez eles travem de novo, mas eu tenho certeza que depois, no dia 7, muda tudo. Como é que eles vão fazer? Lutar contra a maioria? Porque não querem a maioria que fale, não querem isso, querem dominar o povo. O povo pode dominar o Facebook, ou seja, vai embora e larga ele para lá. Como o Google, né? O YouTube, que aliás tem papo aí que o Musk vai montar a XTV, que vai concorrer com o YouTube, ou ele vai comprar o YouTube. Mas o YouTube ele não compra com um dia, ele deve levar uns 6 meses a 1 ano de negociações. Então tem gente dizendo aí que Elon Musk vai comprar tudo, vai comprar YouTube, Coca-Cola, Ferrari, Toyota, Ford. Pô, calma, eu acredito que ele vai em frente, vai trabalhar bastante, vai fazer as coisas certas. Eu acho que a intenção dele é ajudar o mundo, nem é o Brasil só, o mundo. Obrigado, Elon Musk. Quase que nem o Eduardo falou, muito obrigado por tudo. Pô, só faltava mandar uma graninha para gente, para a gente poder se aparelhar e ficar em frente para poder brigar por isso tudo. Mas não chorar com isso, não. Apareceu uma pessoa dizendo lá no China, antes da suporte, dizendo que pô, faz. Não sei, não acredito em Papai Noel. Então tá lá, vamos ver o que acontece. O mundo está perto. Obrigado, Senhor. Live tranquila. Abençoe todo mundo que vê hoje, que vai ver amanhã, que vai ver depois. Obrigado, Senhor. Muito, muito, muito bom. Tá? Gente, eu vou botar a vinheta de encerramento e volto no final só para dar tchau, hein? Então vamos lá. Muito obrigado pela audiência, muito obrigado pela paciência. Até amanhã, com vocês, a vinheta de encerramento. É isso aí, gente. A gente continua, claro, acabou a vinheta, certo? Obrigado por ter nos assistido, aturado a gente até aqui. Eu só posso dizer uma coisa para vocês. Gente, muito obrigado de novo, né? Muito obrigado pela audiência, muito obrigado pela paciência. Até amanhã. Tchau, tchau. Tchau, 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 tchau.